We're here, and I'm joined this morning by Barbara Gray and Michael D'Andrea, two of the senior public servants who will be working with us on this important project we're going to talk about today. And we're here this morning at the park space by the York Street exit ramp of the Gardiner Expressway to let the people of Toronto, the immediate residents, but also those who are traveling through this area, to know about a major construction project that will begin shortly. When this was first brought to my attention some time ago, I said that I wanted to help in the process of raising public awareness about this, because it's a significant project. It has to be done, but it also will cause a degree of dislocation in different ways, and I think it's important that we give as much time as possible for people to think about this and to think about the plans they might make when the project actually begins. Starting on April 17th, we will begin to demolish the eastbound ramp from the Gardiner Expressway to York, Bay and Yonge Streets. I think as people who use this transportation artery know, there is the one ramp, and you can get off to go to any of those three streets on the one ramp. It's right here in front of us and behind us, and this obviously is going to result in some changed behavior on the part of people, because the ramp is expected to be closed for 8 months. Staff have nicknamed this ramp over the years, as have many commuters I discovered even in talking about this news conference today, the Hot Wheels ramp, because you really do whirl around as you come off the highway. But that ride is about to be over. We need to get this work done. This off-ramp, like the rest of the Gardiner Expressway, is some 50 years old, and it is reaching the end of its life. It is in poor condition. And so, like every good news, bad news story, the bad news is it's in poor condition and needs to be replaced. The good news is it gives us an opportunity to do a number of things, both transportation-wise and in terms of the urban precinct that we're in here close to the waterfront as we deal with this. It has become, as things have developed around it, another barrier between the waterfront and the city. And so in that sense, as we try to make the waterfront as accessible as we can to pedestrians and cyclists and residents of the city, we're going to have a chance to make some improvements in that regard as well. The ramp will be replaced by a shorter ramp from the Gardiner to Lower Simcoe Street. The construction will also see Harbour Street, which is just to the north here, eventually widened from 3 to 4 lanes to accommodate traffic flow in this area. And so the work on this project will begin in April and will continue until January of 2018. So it's quite a lengthy period of time during which there will be some changes needed on the part of people who are traveling around this area. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. In fact, just the opposite. I am here to be upfront about the details and to make sure that people in the City of Toronto know why we have to do it, know what the benefits are going to be, because they are significant, and also know that we are going to there's going to be a result of a much better transportation facility here, and also a much better park and a much better access to the waterfront. The impacts of the construction will be noticeable. The project will be disruptive because construction always is, but the city, with all the expertise we could muster, is taking a number of steps that are necessary, or as many as can be taken, to minimize the disruption. So, for example, traffic signals will be adjusted in this area to take account of the fact that there'll be new patterns available to and used by drivers who will get off either at Jameson, Spadina, or further east at Jarvis, because this ramp won't be available. There will be substantial additional signage put up. Drivers will still have full access to the downtown core by exiting the eastbound Gardiner at Jameson, at Spadina, or further east at Jarvis. Drivers will be directly able to access the eastbound Lakeshore Boulevard from the eastbound Gardiner ramp at Spadina. There's presently a gate there that would prevent you from doing that, but there are arrangements that are going to be made so that when you get off the eastbound Gardiner at Spadina, you could either continue to turn left and go north on Spadina, as many people do now, or you can go straight through on the Lakeshore and continue further east. And we'll also be taking steps to try and accelerate this work to the greatest extent possible, consistent with the congestion relief plan that has seen us accelerate many of the projects that are underway in the city. Because of the fact that there are many residents that live right around this construction project, and because of the fact that concrete demolition work can be noisy, obviously, at times, we will have construction happening from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So that will be a limitation that will be placed on this, because people often ask, why can't you do every project on a 24/7 basis? But I think in that balancing of interest that goes on between getting this done as quickly as possible and making sure local residents aren't unduly disrupted, the work will happen between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. There will be times when it can be suitable to do 24/7 work that is not unduly disruptive, and every opportunity will be taken to make sure that we do that. This work is part of the $312 million the city is investing in roads and bridge infrastructure as part of the 2017 budget. And I think that's another reason why the approval of the budget by the Executive Committee yesterday, the capital budget and the operating budget, was significant, because it allows us to move forward with things like this. The $312 million allocated to roads and bridges will allow us to maintain 5,600 kilometers of roads, 7,950 kilometers of sidewalks, 1,200 kilometers of bike lanes, and 500 bridges in the city. That's the scale of the infrastructure we're having to maintain and repair, and in some cases replace. We'll be working away at repairing the thousands of potholes, of course, that the city has, particularly after the winter season. We'll be continuing our work to make our streets and every part of our city safer for pedestrians and cyclists by implementing the Vision Zero road safety plan, which we've talked about in recent weeks. We'll be continuing our work to have traffic flow better in the city, retiming 360 traffic signals along 14 major arterial roads in 2017, and we'll be doing our ongoing maintenance work on the Don Valley Parkway. This is important work provided for in the budget to make sure that that traffic can flow smoothly in the city, and most important of all, to make sure that people can be safe in the city. I can't stress enough the importance of this work that we're doing at the York Bay Yonge Street off-ramp from the Gardiner. This will, to turn to the good news side of this, this ramp and its demolition and replacement will help to reconnect people to the waterfront, the people of the city. Once the construction is done, there will be dramatically improved pedestrian and cycling access to the waterfront. The work will allow for the redesign of this park east of York Street, where we're standing today. There will be improved public safety, well-lit intersections, and more signage, which again will make it easier for people to both enjoy the park itself and connect through to the waterfront. This is exactly the kind of project that we want in the city, one that does carry with it some short-term dislocation while we get it done, but will produce benefits for transportation, benefits for access to the waterfront, benefits for parkland that makes the city more livable. I invite you to both look at, and I hope you will consider republishing or broadcasting some of both the photographs and the maps, because part of why I'm standing here today is to make sure we begin educating the public with respect to what we're going to be doing, and the fact that it will carry with it some disruption, and that people will have a number of alternatives to use, but that they'll have to think about that. We also want people to understand the benefits that it will bring, and I think when people have a chance to look at the photographs of what this area will look like when this ramp is gone and replaced with something that is much more conducive to the area that we're in, they'll be happy about that, notwithstanding the frustration that may happen in the meantime. I'm not going to stand here and say there won't be frustration, because when construction happens, as we know across the city, it leads to some dislocation and some frustration. But I hope people will understand that we're being upfront in saying this work needs to be done. There are going to be benefits from it, and that we're just saying that's something that we should be better to move forward with than to try and postpone yet again. It's going to be better for drivers. It's going to be better for pedestrians. It's going to be better for cyclists, and it's going to be better for the city overall. And that's why we're proceeding with it, and proceeding now, and getting it done as quickly as possible. Obviously, Michael or Barbara are happy to answer any detailed technical questions you have about this. I'm happy to answer questions about the project in general, or about any other issue that you have on your mind today. Well, certainly it is absolutely crucial that when there's a fire or any other kind of emergency, that people be able to be notified of that through an alarm system and otherwise. And so if there's been a failure of the principal system, I think we have to look at what can be done. We've seen a tragedy happen in our city, in buildings before, and I think that the thing that is most likely to be able to prevent that is obviously, good behavior on the part of people being fire safe, but also making sure that when these things happen, there are alarms. So I'll look into it. I don't, I haven't had a chance to as yet this morning. The whole matter of vetting is a very complex matter because, of course, TCH exists in many cases as the kind of housing option of last resort for a lot of people who are vulnerable or otherwise in need of housing assistance. I have spoken to the Premier and to the provincial government about helping us with the safety and security of all of the tenants of those buildings by making it easier for us to remove people who have a track record of dealing in drugs and other kinds of criminal activity. I don't know if that's the case here or not, but I can only say we have taken a look at that. And as for the vetting process, it becomes as controversial. If you are stricter in your vetting, then it leads to some people, perhaps some might argue, properly being rejected by Toronto Community Housing, but you're still left with the question of where to house those people. So it's one of those things. We have had discussions about this because certainly when the Eagleton Task Force did their work and did their consultation, the number one issue named by residents of TCHC that they would like to see us address in a more significant way is safety and security in a broad range.